Brad Sham. Maybe he has the lottery numbers. Joining us here on the Diamond Factory Hotline. You predicted called for the turnover. You play which one's at 350? Is it Power or Mega right now? Are you a lotto guy, Brad?
It's Mega.
I no, but I'm not greedy. I'll take the small one.
Yeah.
If one's 350 and one's 300, I'll take the 300.
No, we don't play when
we don't play if it's less than 100.
Yeah, we don't play
it's not
when
worth
it's
my
not,
time.
6, 7, 800 mil.
Well, that's you guys. I'm not making your money.
That's right. Brad, I want to talk about a couple of guys who usually don't get a ton of shine. Deron Bland. Let's start off with him and the night that he had and his journey throughout this season.
Yeah, those two interceptions were, they were like the ones that he had earlier in the year, and he's done a really good job filling in for Jordan Lewis. And we kind of thought that he would be okay based on what we saw. And I say we, I mean all of us who watch him in preseason and early on in training camp. We thought, okay, this guy looks pretty good. And he hasn't been perfect. There's been a couple of games where he's struggled. He's still a corner. He's playing mostly nickel, but he's still a corner. Every corner gives up something. But the fact that they lost a guy who is as significant to them as Jordan Lewis is, and they really haven't missed a beat with that, tells you how good Bland is already. And then you just forget that he's a rookie. Just think of what he'll be in the next couple of years. He's been really significant for them. And
then Jerry afterwards says that Anthony Brown is gone for the year. So how big of a problem is corner now?
It's big, and I will agree that Anthony Brown has not appeared to have had as good a year as he has the last couple. And he's a favorite whipping boy of fans who don't really watch his play carefully. And last year, especially when Diggs was getting all of the attention and deserved it for his interceptions, but Brown was so super solid. And this year, he does not appear to have played quite as well. And maybe the fact that he was in a contract year was weighing on him. I don't know. But I do know that you're going to miss him now. Because right now, to me, we'll see what McCarthy says this afternoon and Dan Quinn. You've got Kelvin Joseph. You've got Nashawn Wright. And you've got a kid, Sheffield, on the practice squad who was with Quinn in Atlanta, and Quinn has talked about his speed, his length, and his tackling ability as his primary characteristics that he likes. Well, you've got a lot of games left. One of those three guys, unless I'm missing something, one of those three guys is going to have to be the corner on the outside. Now, only the coaches have really seen Sheffield in practice, and you have the rest of us who, saw training camp. Wright's been inactive almost every game. So you just have to say, okay, are you going to be able to get by with this? I think it could be a problem.
What was different about Brown this year?
I just don't think he's tracked quite as well. I think that there have been some coverage things that got away from him a little bit. I don't think he's been horrible, but I think that he was really solid, really not just last year, RJ, I think in the last several years. Yeah. And he just doesn't seem as confident, doesn't seem to be tracking the ball quite as well. I'm not sure he's even tackling quite as well. He's really been an outstanding tackler. And he just didn't seem to me to be playing quite as well. But he was better than, he was starting, so he was better than what you had. So we'll see. Joseph still got some immaturity, and you're going to have to trust him on not just on special teams, but you're going to have to trust him in coverage and not to commit a lot of penalties. Wright is a different player. He's very long, very tall, but they're going to have. I would think they would have what would amount to, kind of an open tryout for a couple of days in training camp, see who plays best.
We're talking with Brad Sham,
fact,
voice of the Cowboys here on Shan RJ on 105 through the Fan. Brad, one of the names you didn't mention there, and obviously it's because it's not the position he plays currently, but Israel Mukuamu got some work in training camp at corner. He had some decent reps against CeeDee Lamb. Corner is where he played the last couple years at South Carolina. I mean, with all the uncertainty there, is it at least worth a shot if maybe seeing he can come in here, compete, and do something better since they just haven't gotten what they wanted?
That's a fair point. And it's you've got him at safety for a reason. I think when they drafted him, they saw him as a guy who had a lot of the characteristics that Jaron Kearse has. And every time we ask about Mukuamu, they talk about how much they really like everything that he's done this year. And Kearse is playing with a bad shoulder, so Mukuamu's a guy that I think they trust to play safety. But you're absolutely right. He was a corner at South Carolina, and it's not something that should be dismissed. Right now, you're going to have to look at everything. The fact that he's been playing mostly safety up to this point, to me, would indicate that they think he's better there than at corner, and you've got maybe as many as three guys, if you include Sheffield, who you think of as a corner. But I think that's a great point. I wouldn't dismiss Mukuamu out of hand.
CeeDee Lamb has been a lightning rod around here as well. What has he shown you in about the last month, Brad?
All of the things that people saw, especially scouts, when he was at Oklahoma, and why they drafted him after, they wouldn't have taken the kid that Oakland took I think it was still Oakland when they took him. So Lamb then came off the board ahead of all those other receivers. He's very tough. He's really, really tough. And he's obviously got great hands and speed and can break tackles. And he had some drop issues a couple of years ago. I don't think we see that very much anymore. And I think mostly, Sean, he's grown into the role. There's a thing mentally. I thought he looked shaky against Tampa. Well, they all look shaky against Tampa, for crying out loud. But he didn't look like the guy who, although this is our number one guy, this is the guy we're going to look to all the time. And he's grown into it. And I don't think there's any question now about whether CeeDee Lamb can be a number one receiver in terms of, you have to mentally accept that all eyes are on you and the quarterback is going to be looking for you in all those big situations. And for a guy who's as wiry as he is, he's really incredibly tough. And I'm very comfortable with him being the number one guy. I think he's shown it.
Brad Sham on the Diamond Factory hotline every Cowboys Monday at this time. Where do you stand on the whole, well, Odell's not going to work out? How much of a hurdle is that to trying to get him signed this week with him visiting today?
Depends on what you're going to pay him. I mean, let's objectively step back and say, have you ever heard of signing a player who won't work out? In any sport? Would any team in any sport sign a guy, a significant player, without him working out? Now, if it wasn't Beckham and it wasn't this time of year and it wasn't something that had a good upside, you wouldn't even be talking about it. Jerry's a big believer in risk-reward. And his definition of risk-reward sounds very simple, but it really is something that when you are the one in charge of the decisions, you really have to have a feel for it. You can take the risk if the potential reward is great enough. And if it's not, then you don't take the risk no matter what everybody says. I believe that there are a lot of people who will be involved in the decision who are very nervous about because it's Beckham, about signing any player without watching him work out. Now, they do have a lot of video stuff, and they have a lot of medical stuff, and they'll do a lot of examination of it, and they will share all this with him. So the thing that you have to be careful of is how many years, how much money guaranteed, because he is 30 and he's had 2 ACLs, same knee. Now, when you get into salary cap stuff, there's a way to make everything work.
Yeah.
But you do have Bobby can help me with this, but I believe that it's Lamb and Diggs who you can start after this year. You want to extend them.
Yep.
You're looking a year down the road at Parsons. And then just look at all of the people that are unsigned. You have 2 running backs, and you've got your backup quarterback, and you've got a number of players on D. You got Van Der Esch, and you've got your tight end, and there's a lot of players who are significant players, some of whom I promise you they'll never say it, but they've already decided we're just not going to be able to compete for them financially. We're going to let them go. We think we've got their replacements, or we'll find, Anthony Brown might have been a 7-year guy. He might have been in that category. I don't know. But there's a long list of players who they're going to have to pay for. And if they start with too much money for too many years for a 30-year-old player with a twice rebuilt knee who won't even work out, if I was working for Jerry, and in the meetings, I would be saying all this to him. I'd say, look, how much of this money do you want to not have to pay other people? Then if you're comfortable with, once you find a number, if you're comfortable with it, go ahead. I'm absolutely not averse to taking the chance. The Beckham we think we know would probably make them more dangerous. And here's another way to look at it. McCarthy says if you want to think about the goals that they have of playing in the last game of the year, then where they've reached now, they are literally only halfway through the season. If you add in if they were to play in every round of the playoffs and all the way to the Super Bowl, they've literally got half the season still to go.
Yeah.
And if they think that they're close enough, and why would they not think that based on what we're seeing, then it might be a risk that you take. But those are the things you have to keep in mind before you commit to the guy.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great day.
Tip of my cap to Malik Hooker for dominating his old team. First defensive touchdown of his career, and he was the first Cowboy with an interception and then a fumble recovery touchdown in the same game since Dennis Thurman in 1983.
He was a running back for Buffalo, I believe, Kevin.
That is Thurman Thomas, I think, is who you're getting at there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so almost 40 years since a Cowboys player has had a fumble recovery touchdown and then also an interception in the same game. Outstanding for Malik Hooker.
Was that the turning point in this game? It was for me.
Okay.
That was a game-changing interception, in my opinion, because that gave you the opportunity to give the Gallup touchdown that we just played right there before the end of the half. And that puts you up, like that made a big difference in where you were in the score going into halftime. And I was like, all right, we know what we can do now. Let's go do it again. So that was the big game-changing moment right before halftime for me in the game. I love that he scooped one and scored. That was fun and everything too. Did you hear him after the game talking to I think it was Melissa Stark, and I think Dak was like, he deserves both of these balls.
I did think that was great.
And he was like it was something along the lines of, did you want to have revenge against your old team? And he was like, I just wanted to show that I was still the player that I think I am. And that was something nice to see, especially Kevin, because last year he was still working his way back. And now this year, I think we've gotten to see a really good version of Malik Hooker.
What's interesting about that is because I interpreted that last part a little bit differently, is the player everyone always thought I could be.
Yeah.
Because he has underperformed in the NFL for sure. And so that felt very much more than like a 1-year statement. It felt like a 5-year statement, right? Like, I know everybody wrote me off. Well, guess what? The Cowboys brought me in, and I want to show you what I can do. So, man, yeah, I do remember that statement. I also agreed with Dak when he was like, give that guy both of the footballs. I was like...
He didn't say footballs.
Both of the balls.
Mm-hmm. He absolutely did say that. I was just trying to point that out.
Where's that audio?
From the 972, thank you to Will McClay. Our rookie class is looking extremely solid, and we have a very young, strong foundation going forward.
I'm telling you, if we can turn the second-year cornerbacks from last year into usable pieces, this thing will feel just like a juggernaut defensively.
Yes. Oh, man, come on, computer. I won't hold those against Will McClay. I will balance, good and bad because, dude, just think about how many players you have right now that are rookies that are playing and contributing. Clark is contributing plenty of time right now. To the point last night where they brought him up and they were like, hey, don't forget about what this guy is. Sam Williams contributing significant, a starting left tackle, / guard / whatever you want in the future, basically, of your offensive line right there. And it just continues. You're looking at it going, man, how do y'all keep doing this? I don't know what the hit rate is. I really don't. I don't know what you can factor as a hit rate in the NFL. But for the most part, Will McClay nails number 1 picks or first round picks, and then he has some really good hits of starters or significant playing time in the later rounds.
And that's one of the reasons you can, regardless of if you think they should sign Odell Beckham or not, that's one of the reasons you would be in position to do that, right? Because you're thinking, hey, we just found Damone Clark, or hey, Deron Bland looks like he's going to be these are guys on the cheap that you can substitute in the lineup, and that allows you to spend perhaps more extravagantly other places. From the 817, this is a good one. Thank you to CeeDee Lamb. Think we're underselling how much of a heads-up play it was when he rolled up off the defender and kept running for the touchdown. My wife was perplexed by that play because we talked about it, and she goes, "What? How come he gets to keep running?" And I was like, "He did not touch the ground." And we're watching the replay, and she's like, "Oh, wow. So he just rolled right off of that guy and didn't touch at all," which is the second time you've had a beneficial kind of no touch, right? First, it was Justin Fields hurdling somebody, and then it was this one where you almost whoop, and then he just rolled right off and kept going. I thought that was phenomenal.
So I guess then my thank you I was going to say CeeDee Lamb, but I'm going to say thank you to...
You can also thank him.
To Kellen Moore, who everybody thinks, said is garbage. We all agreed he's garbage.
It's weird. That is a weird thing.
But he was on fire last night, man. There were some play calls, and obviously it worked out in the favor, but he made CeeDee Lamb kind of look like Devontae Adams at times last night, with the ability to move back and forth either side, and then you knew what you had in Michael Gallup on the other side. This, Kevin, I know Mike uses this a lot. I use it a lot. Kellen Moore last night was a pitcher that was kind of, I got my change up. I got every pitch right now, and I'm gonna work them all in, and he did. I mean, the running game was on fire, so they just kept going with it. Kellen Moore did a really good job at play calling last night, and highlighted. You go 2 different directions with this. Either Jerry Jones and Steven are looking at their wide receiver position, which they've been trying to figure out all season if they need to add something to it, or if what they have is good enough, or if the guy who was running the offense was good enough to make sure that those guys were good enough. They have been working on that. And last night was a culmination of, oh yeah, man, we have some really good stuff if we add one more.
And
we add one more.
I
And
know.
the current update is that he is at the Star, Kevin. And we'll find out more about when his airplane leaves tomorrow.
And yeah, somebody texted in, thank you to Odell Beckham's pilot. I'm not him, but I just wanted to annoy Kevin. So yes, thank you very much for that. And just take this for what you will. CeeDee Lamb's projections for the season right now, 98 catches, 1,315 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Like that's a heck of a season right there. I know it's not going to match some people's expectations, but 98 catches, 1,300 yards, and 9 touchdowns, pretty good.
Legitimate number one?
I
Have you thought any differently this year?
I do think.
Is your mind changing?
No, I do think he's a legitimate number one. There's just people lump all of that together. There can be a category of, hey, are you Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson or Devontae Adams? And I'm like, if those are the only number ones, then I guess not. But I think he's shown himself to be a heck of a wide receiver.
Did it concern you at all that, like, it seemed like all of his catches came off of that motion and movement before you got him out in space?
Not really, because that is something that I feel like we had asked for in terms of taking advantage of what he does better. Now, I understand your question, I really do. But I feel like we had just complained a lot about not like taking advantage of what he does best. And so they were like, hey, let's take advantage of what he does best. And it was wildly effective. So that really doesn't bother me, because I guess I'm hopeful that once that gets figured out, they'll like, well, we'll find a new way to utilize him then.
I'm going to write a thank you note to, and I think it's maybe to Charlotte.
Okay.
For putting the salvation kettles out there on the football field, because that's entertainment, man.
Right.
Hey, NFL, get with the program, bro. What do y'all do? Actually, because you find Dalton Schultz and the tight ends like that, that's why Dak and Zeke went and did what they did. They know this is something that we can do on national TV. It's awesome. It's fun. Let's bring some more attention to this sucker.
Sure.
And they know that fine's getting paid pretty quickly by somebody for them. And I loved it. I loved the entertainment of Zeke popping up out of it and Dak giving it the crank. That was fun.
What?
It's a crank, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that what it's called? He was spinning the crank.
Okay. Thank you to Michael Gallup for having more touchdowns Sunday night than he had the rest of the season combined.
Is that a shot? That feels like a shot.
No.
Did it feel like a shot?
No. I mean, he's making his way out, and then Dak was gone. Like, remember, Jerry said, hey, let's give it just a damn minute.
Okay. All right.
And
I'm watching you, Kevin.
It's okay. No, I thought that was the best. I thought that was my favorite throw of the game. I was going to say the best play of the game, but like everything DeRon Bland.
That kind of back shoulder.
Yeah. Well.
Or fade almost.
And that one is because he led Michael Gallup. It was the one where he led Michael Gallup to the end zone because
that was perfect.
And because what do people complain about with that?
Can't do that.
Yeah, and they'll be like, well, he completed the pass, but he didn't lead him to where he wanted to be. The reason that touchdown was scored, obviously Michael Gallup did a heck of a job, but it was also set up because Dak led that throw exactly where you needed it to be. I thought that throw and that catch and that move into the end zone was a thing of beauty.
I want to see more of that. Like,
Sure.
not just the Dak throw. Like, obviously, that has to be the thing. But, Reggie, Michael Gallup with a head of steam? What? That dude, like, he's big and strong already, and he's got great speed behind it. I want to see more because he picks up bigger yards doing something like that. And as he gets more, again, continues to get more comfortable, he'll be able to make bigger plays out of that. You know, we're talking about Zeke and watching Zeke run right now, and he looks like a different runner. And I don't know if it's just confidence or what, like his vision's gotten a little bit better, but he looks like a bit of a different runner at times.
Man, I'm really glad that this person texted in because somebody tweeted me last night. I was like, man, I don't feel that way at all. From the 214, thank you to Dakota for being super duper solid. If Mahomes made that throw on the run to Gallup, people would still be ranting and raving about it. Because I tweeted about that throw and somebody goes, oh, DFW is the only market where they try to hype up mediocre throws into something. And I was like, man, I don't know like who you talk to and stuff like that, or if you just really hate Dak. I don't feel like that is the case at all.
Also, this is besides the point, but I disagree with the idea that if that was Mahomes, we'd be ranting and raving about it because he would just give us another one. Like,
Yeah.
5 minutes later.
Yeah, and also, like, I don't know, you compare anything to Patrick Mahomes, and my default is like, sure,
Right.
he's not Patrick Mahomes. And, like, I just kind of move about my day. I think it's fine to say, man, that was a heck of an escape, heck of a throw, heck of a move by Gallup for a great touchdown that, at least at that stage in the game, it looked like you were definitely going to need. Clearly, the fourth quarter threw all of that out the window, but still. And then I feel like we have to say thank you to DaRon Bland, because at first...
It's about time we mentioned his name.
Well, at first...
Hey, you need to start that man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on,
but
wait.
We have been starting him.
Start him more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were they just... Okay. When people say start him more, they mean
Start
in
him
the
on
place
both
of
sides of the
Anthony
ball.
Brown,
Oh.
right? Like, they don't mean would have been running so hard, like out of the slot and everything. They're like, no. I needed you to go right here. And that's what I was thinking of. But my initial note for DaRon Bland was stopping that 2-point conversion. Because remember, it was when it's 21-19, and you're like, yes. And then the Cowboys were like, don't worry about it, because we will score the third most points in a fourth quarter in the history of football. So it's going to be all right. But he was a huge part of that as well, because then he got 2 interceptions. Third.
Explain. I have it as second. Tied for second.
What I saw was there's 2 teams that were tied for first, and for some reason people like to misinterpret that as second. And
Okay.
Realistically,
I know
it's
the Lions scored
third.
34 in 2007. I don't have another team aside
Okay.
from that. But I was about to throw that stat your way, Kevin, because that's pretty awesome too, but you missed it by 1 point. Guess what would have been the difference there? Would that have been the Maher extra
Oh, the
point where you've
blocked
been
extra
tied for it
point?
then, and then things are all different? So I don't know, man. It's either way, an exceptional evening.
It is third. The Chicago Cardinals, back on December 10th. Feel free to rule this out if you want.
In 1925.
1925
a great season
also
of football.
scored 34 points.
You remember that season, right, Kevin?
I don't.
I have them as scoring 33 against the Milwaukee Badgers in 1925.
Oh.
No, we can't just like gloss past that.
Okay, hold on. We're going to have to
The
investigate
Milwaukee
this.
Badgers?
But this is also from sportskeeda.com, so I don't know exactly how that stands on things. But I know Detroit in 2007.
Whoa, oh my
scored 34.
God. Hold on.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
This is going to
history
become a
lesson?
segment, because if you want to take another one, there is one account that says they only scored 32 in the fourth quarter
Shenanigans.
because of a scandal by which Chicago player Art Fultz hired
Not
a
a real
group
name.
of high school players to play for the Milwaukee Badgers. So,
Awesome.
here's what we've learned.
History lesson coming this week.
One site says 32, one says 33, one says 34, and one spot says they hired high school kids to play for Milwaukee, and that's why they beat them 58-0. And also, just to show you how weird football used to be, my notes right here say at that point the Chicago Cardinals were 11-2-1 and the Milwaukee Badgers were 0-6. Like, what?
Why were why were they 0-6?
Because those kids had school the other
the
day.
adults couldn't
Yeah,
couldn't
they had
win
high school the
games.
other days, and they're like, we can't. Okay, I know we got other stuff to get to, but
Yeah.
I have
Do we?
become, I don't know.
Look, hey, Kevin, we have a full week of radio.
That
all
is
right?
true.
So let's go ahead and, you know what? Let's finish today. And let's
Okay.
go ahead. We have a history lesson segment coming with the Milwaukee
I
Badgers.
just want to bring that up to Mike, and he's just like, what?
Yeah. No,
And
I
has
can see his
no
face
clue
right now.
what we're talking about. All right, we will investigate that further, but
And people are fired up about this victory and how the Cowboys are stomping mud holes.
What was interesting about last night was the fact that you kind of felt like something was going on. And that something that was going on was Jerry Jones after the game and the post game.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have never seen a victorious head coach press conference where there were 3 people in there and 2 people were only asking questions.
Do you
Never
think
seen
Jerry
that.
does this intentionally?
I don't know, but, you know, Mike.
So Jerry's holding court
Yeah.
in the back while Mike's press conference is about
Same
to go
time.
on. Yeah.
Same time. And it's like, you know, Mike, I was like going, where?
Shouldn't that Tad dude have been like, hey, Jerry, time to...
Well, we came down the elevator with him and Scott Agolnick, and they went directly to the field, I'm sure. And then Mike, I was thinking, well, was Mike a little early on this, to not give everybody a chance to go over? But I think people are figured out that you get far more information about the team and really, really what's going on talking to the owner, general manager, than the head coach.
Well, maybe they need then like a Mike presser and then a Jerry presser, but don't do it at the same time, because I would agree with the reporters. If you want better info, probably go to Jerry. It just seems like there's no way he could have known. Like, he might know Mike McCarthy's about to speak, but he's into it and all that, and they're doing the question and answer. And then I think when he found out, like, hey, Mike McCarthy's press conference was going on, there were only 2 reporters there, Jerry. Yeah. He was probably like, oh, crap, my bad. Won't happen again, right? There's no way you do something like that on purpose.
Well, I don't think Mike would say anything, but I wonder, if the PR staff would say, hey, listen, Jerry, but what do you tell Jerry? Jerry's very interested in walking out of that locker room, and then the camera lights turn on, and he's like, okay, what do you got? And he's going to tell you that Dak Prescott's thumb's busted. He's going to tell you that Anthony Brown's Achilles is ruptured. Mm-hmm. He's going to give you the idea that, like, Odell Beckham, I think I'm going to push all the chips in, and here we go, kind of
Maybe
a thing.
He likes the coaches to know he's daddy. For years, he's done his Friday hit at 10:30, same time as the coach's press conference.
Yeah. I just think that there's something, like, if you're Mike McCarthy, you're going, okay, we're cool. I'm sure it was a little bit of a shock for him to walk in there and walk up on that podium and look around and see Mickey and Calvin Watkins sitting there and a girl transcribing information.
It was strange. We were looking at each other like,
I thought something really major.
Going on.
I thought something major happened. Maybe like Jerry was like telling everybody that, okay, we signed Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So, or maybe, So something had to have been going on, but we knew it had to be Jerry's talking or something big, because you never see nobody in there for Mike McCarthy's presser.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's 30 reporters.
Right. The room's full.
In most game situations. 214, Jerry's the worst. I don't know if he did it on purpose. I think it's something he just got caught up having fun and the attention was on him, and I don't think he'll do it again. But if he does, maybe he and Mike are kind of going back and forth at each other a little bit in the public and having fun. Like, Mike took a hell of a shot at him today. He was asked about something Jerry did, and Mike said, well, I'd have more leniency on that.
Well, it's in reference to the Zeke suspension him not starting the game for disciplinary reasons.
What was so funny was you were starting to get audio from the locker room and, like Zeke interviews and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden the Jerry quotes started coming out about Zeke and the potentially with a phone going off or him being late for a meeting, or, why didn't Zeke start? And nobody was asking Zeke any questions about, why didn't you start? What's the deal with you and Tony? Are you no longer the starter? Nobody knew to ask that question. And then you get Jerry, and now it's like, oh, okay.
Well, we looked like a couple of schmucks, because Brian and I are thinking maybe this is it. Maybe this is the passing of the torch. They're finally like, you know what, Pollard's our guy.
You want everything. You want those things handled internally.
Sure.
Now you've made a mess for your running back and for your coaching staff.
I know, being over there today, over at the Star, doing work with DallasCowboys.com, that there were some people in the organization that weren't too happy about Jerry saying what he said.
Okay.
And like that they felt like that they kind of had a handle on that, and then the cat got out of the bag.
It keeps popping up. It's like he can't help himself but, say things or do things that should infuriate Mike McCarthy. In the offseason, he vented about it in the Rich Eisen podcast. Since then, I think he's come to accept it, and now is terrific at, like, providing levity during it, like a joke or like a whatever. So yeah, there's that part of it, and that's a big storyline from last night.
Reminds me of that Dave Chappelle, Dane Cook situation.
Yes.
If anybody want to hear me talk and ask me some questions, come on outside and smoke some cigarettes.
Yes.
Sorry about your press conference.
That's exactly right.
We'll see how important Mr. Dane Cook is now.
Yes, that is a legendary moment. Can I give some love to Brian Broaddus and Trayvon Diggs real quick? So, Brian, you gave your scouting report. You said if you're the Cowboys, this is what you do. You travel Diggs with Pittman. What the Cowboys do? They traveled Diggs with Michael Pittman. In fact, according to Next Gen Stats, Trayvon Diggs shadowed Michael Pittman last night, aligning across from him on 30 of 40 routes. That's 83% of the time. Michael Pittman targeted just one time with Diggs as the nearest defender. How many catches for Michael Pittman Jr.? 0.
Nice job.
The bagel.
Yeah, when you took him off him, he was more interested in shadowing Matt Ryan's pump fake.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, maybe go with that. Nice job, though. Brian's been calling a lot of these things, and you got to stay tuned because he's really telling you what needs to happen and what did happen. Okay, I don't see anything on OBJ since the confirmation from Mike at about 3 o'clock. He's in the building, and he's going through medical processes. Callie Kaplan broke it earlier. Sounds like Dak might be among those accompanying Odell Beckham Jr. to the Mavs game tomorrow night. That was yesterday. Not that the Mavs needed more motivation versus West's best sons beyond trying to turn around their 500 start, but Cowboys fan Luka Doncic might have a little bit of extra juice. So that's something fun to look for tonight if you're going to the game.
Is Odell Beckham? I think he's friends with who? Okay, the
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting because especially if they sit in those seats that the Joneses own, the Cowboys own those seats.
Right.
There are 4 seats next to the visitors' bench.
Well, and rumor has it OBJ is a courtside guy, but
And
Dak likes
is
to be a
not.
sweet guy.
Yeah. So
Something's got to give. I mean, you go with OBJ, right?
Yeah.
So you want if OBJ wants courtside, you're going courtside.
You're going courtside.
Yeah,
I think that's where the highest visibility is going to be tonight.
Definitely.
You want to be all over that. Okay. Mike McCarthy also said the Cowboys will not have any padded practices this week.
Yeah.
Okay. So
They're playing the Texans.
players appreciate that.
What are you trying to say?
Is there? Yeah. There's no need. No, we're good, guys. You have all week off.
Yeah. It's tough for the Texans, though.
I do want to salute my guy Zeke for being candid. I truly believe our team is better off when Tony's getting touches. He's so explosive. Last year, I had to really come around to it, and it definitely was a little hard at first. But at the end of the day, what's important is the team.
Yeah, he's trying to get Tony paid, so he'll leave.
There you go. Yeah, we got to get this Tony guy more touches. Maybe he'll get hurt. No, just playing. Just playing.
Man.
Knock on wood on that one. But I think Zeke's better for it. He's fresher later in the games, later in the season. And for the last 2 weeks, Zeke hasn't hit 100 yards, but he has been a huge reason that they have won. You know, the other thing that shows is I think the influence that he had on the coach's decision, which is, I think, a little off. Yeah, it's kind of a head-scratcher why Zeke got to continue to carry the ball so much more. But I've compared his situation to Jason Witten. I gave the coaches credit for getting Pollard in more, but it might be Zeke. I think what we found out, it was Zeke last year putting himself in the game.
Yeah.
And the coaches didn't say, Zeke, you got to come out. He said, give more to Pollard. That's my guy. And I'm not incredibly comfortable with how that whole thing flowed. You know, I don't know. I don't think that looks good for Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator. You have to maintain the ability to move any player in and out of the lineup based on what gives your team the best chance to win. If you can't evaluate it or are uncomfortable doing it with a star player or a former star player, you're weak, Kellen. That was pathetic, and you better not let it happen again. Okay. Will Dak pass Tony? Most career passing touchdowns in Cowboys history after Dak's fade route to Michael Gallup. Tony, 247. Troy, 165. Dak, 156. Of course, he's going to pass Troy Aikman. Is he going to pass Tony Romo as well? I think so. That's only like 3 more seasons. 3 more seasons. Sure. Dak Prescott is going to be the all-time touchdown tosser. Maybe 2 if he goes off.
How many more years left on that contract, by the way?
2 more years.
2 more years.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I think there's a good shot, though.
Yeah, I don't see the team falling apart enough. I mean, the offensive line is being rebuilt. You let Amari Cooper go, and he still has this offense, you know, and whether it's going to be good enough to beat good defenses when you get to the playoffs, I don't know. But, like, the sample size now is pretty outstanding. There's a case to be made that the schedule's been crap. It's been 5 bad teams and the Minnesota Vikings with the worst game plan ever. You know, maybe when the schedule gets more difficult, but it's not going to get difficult the rest of this year. You're still in the NFC East where you own Washington and New York. You split with Philly. You're like halfway to 10 wins before you even get out of the division. So I can't see the Cowboys wanting to pull the plug on this arrangement.
No.
He's proving now I've come back fully from the injuries that have been hampering me for the last 3 seasons. I'm now back to being a very high-level Dak. I want him to run more still. Yep. You know, I was hollering at the TV last night, like, come on, you know, you need to turn that thing loose, you know, and prevent the 3 and outs in any way possible. But he proved once again he doesn't need to.
Definitely on that one that almost was the interception where it was like, where the hell was that ball going to CeeDee Lamb? I was like, oh, that was one you wanted to take off and run. But you're about to win 10 games in back-to-back years for the first time since the 95-96 seasons.
Wow.
Like, fellas, this has not happened in a long time. So this Dak McCarthy marriage, maybe we should kind of be happy about this. Also, we talked about this last night, Brian, but Collinsworth made the point during the NBC Sports broadcast, and I saw this quote tweeted, but they talked to Dak during their lead up to the game, and he said, quote, I'm just going to assume, talking about his receivers, they're going to get open when they get out of the break. So you're starting to see him kind of, instead of just like waiting to see things open, he's starting to try and throw receivers open, trying to anticipate that, which we've talked about Dak quite a bit. That's been a knock on him. So maybe that's resulting in a little bit of these interceptions or a little bit of these passes where it seems like there's some miscommunications because he's trying to put some more trust in his receivers to make these plays.
Yeah, I agree, man. And that's a very interesting topic. Last week we talked about how many picks is it okay to throw if you're increasing the scoring by this much? And I think we're seeing a continuation of that. And now he's putting words to it. You know, it's really interesting because it should have been 2 and maybe even 3 interceptions last night, right? How comfortable are we with it? Do we want more of a bus driver? I love that he's pushing the envelope, though, and experimenting. And I think if he continues to do this, there might be growing pains. You can dial it back in big game situations where you need to be more conservative. But I would say in the regular season over the next 2 to 3 years, whenever you get a chance to do this, put that ball up. And over time, I think you'll figure out ways to avoid the big takeaway, right? But step one, I think, is not being afraid of the mistake. And I didn't know if Dak would ever get there, and it seems like he has.
How many interceptions would you take a game to know you were scoring 30 points every game?
1.
Yeah, I think 1, you're still going to be in position to win. Now the other team might take that in, and now instead of 23 points, they have 30. Yeah. But at 2, now you're begging for them to score 35 on you, aren't you?
The interception right before half, that's the one that's going to kill you. Like the Cowboys got theirs back, and so they were able to punch it in right before half. So you were okay, right? You got it back. Right. But you can't turn the ball over consistently right before the half and put yourself behind the 8 ball against good teams. That's going to beat you in the playoffs.
Since returning, the Cowboys are outscoring their opponents 39-15. I tell you what, with a defense like this, it is easier. It is easier to put that ball up and say, well, I'm going to throw it over into their half of the field, and if they do pick it off, then we're going to get the ball back on a punt here in about 2.5 minutes. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it is an exciting time to be a Cowboy fan, no doubt about it.